My name is Clara Jennings. I'm 36. I've been married to Mark for 8 years. On paper, everything about our life in Portland, Oregon looks just right. Stable jobs, a nice home, dinner parties with polite smiles. It's the kind of life people admire from a distance. And for a while, I thought it was enough. But silence grows in familiar spaces. It crept into my mornings, my reflection, my laughter. The silence of not being seen, not being touched, not being needed. Until Luca came back. Luca is Mark's son from his first marriage. Now 23, a final year student at NYU. When I married Mark, Luca was still in high school, a tall, quiet boy who barely made eye contact. We were never close, but never cold either. Time passed. He grew up. I stopped noticing until I couldn't stop noticing. He returned to our home in Portland for the summer. It was July. The air was heavy with heat and the scent of pine from the backyard. That morning, I was in the kitchen in a worn tank top and linen shorts, cutting mango slices, assuming I was alone. Mark had already left for the office. I wasn't thinking, not about appearances, not about anything, until Luca walked in, barefoot and holding a power drill. "Morning," he said casually, his voice deeper, more confident than I remembered. Mumbled something about fixing a loose cabinet hinge. It should have been nothing. Just small talk. But I felt it before I understood it. The air thickened. The room paused. I glanced up and saw his reflection in the microwave glass. His eyes weren't on my face. They were on me. My collarbone, my hips. Curious, quiet, bold, my breath caught. I should have moved, said something covered up. But I froze. So did he. When the drill slipped from his hand and clattered to the floor, he muttered a flustered apology and left the kitchen. But something had changed. His glance lingered like a lit match near dry leaves. Later that afternoon, I lay across our bed, fully dressed, tracing my waist with the tips of my fingers. Like I was trying to remember the woman who used to live in this skin. I hadn't felt wanted in a long time, not even by my husband. Luca made me feel noticed. That night at dinner, Mark chatted away about a potential client. Luca barely spoke. When I asked him to pass the pepper and our hands brushed, the jolt between us was undeniable. I barely slept that night. And the house felt too quiet, too aware. The next day, the heat was relentless. I suggested we use the pool. "Sure," Luca shrugged. I picked a navy blue swimsuit. Simple, not showy. At least that's what I told myself. When I stepped outside, he was already in the water, arms stretched along the pool edge, eyes watching me. Not in a crude way, but steady. Seeing me, we laughed, talked. I hadn't laughed like that in weeks. When he offered to grab drinks, I nodded. His fingers brushed mine as he handed me a bottle of sparkling water. I didn't pull away. Under the water, our feet touched. I didn't move. I let it happen. Then he asked almost too casually if I needed sunscreen. I told myself it was innocent. But when his hands pressed into my shoulders, slow, warm, steady, I knew it wasn't. Each touch more deliberate, more familiar. My eyes closed without thinking. For the first time in years, I felt alive. When I stood up and stumbled slightly, he caught me. His arms were around me. Our bodies pressed too close, too long. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. That evening, Mark texted that he'd be working late. I poured a glass of wine. Luca appeared in the living room, freshly showered. His gray t-shirt clung to his chest. He stood there, hesitant but unafraid. "Mind some company?" he asked. I nodded. We sat at opposite ends of the couch. The silence was heavier than any conversation. I passed him a glass of wine. Our fingers touched. Slower this time. "Are you happy?" he asked quietly. I stared at him. "I used to be," I whispered. "Now I don't know." "I see you," he said. "Every day." The way you pause at the garden window, the way you check your smile in the hallway mirror like you've forgotten you're still beautiful. My throat tightened. You shouldn't say that, I muttered. But it's true. When he leaned in, I didn't stop him. When he kissed me, soft, almost reverent, I kissed him back. His hands gripped my waist like I was something precious. My palms flattened on his chest, feeling his heartbeat rise. It wasn't just desire, it was connection. And I hadn't felt that in years. We didn't say much after. He just held me, and I let him. The next morning, he was already downstairs drinking coffee. We didn't talk about it. But every glance across the room felt like a question, an invitation. 3 more days passed. Then it happened again. This time, not slow, not hesitant. We were alone. And it felt like the house itself had conspired to push us together. He took my hand, walked me upstairs. I didn't resist. The guilt crept in later. I lied to Mark, told him I had a migraine, blamed the heat. Luca started texting me during the day. Short messages, a smile, a song. He fixed things around the house, cooked. Watched movies beside me too close. It wasn't a fling. It felt real. But real doesn't always mean right. As August neared its end, so did our little world. Luca asked me what I wanted. What I really wanted. I didn't know how to answer. Then one evening, Mark came home early. Luca and I were in the kitchen, just talking, but it was too close, too familiar. Mark said nothing, but his eyes said everything. 2 days later, Luca packed for school. We didn't say goodbye, just a long embrace. A quiet, uncertain promise. I watched him drive away from the upstairs window. Sometimes he texts. I respond. Sometimes I don't. I don't know what's next. I don't know if I'll stay with Mark or if I'll ever see Luca again. But I know what we shared was real, risky, messy, but real. And sometimes that's enough to wake up the version of yourself you thought you'd lost forever.